Okay, so picture a city called the Sleeping Well. The air here is heavy, thick with the soot of stars that have already burned out. And in this city, we meet a man on a truly impossible quest. His whole story is kind of like someone trying to bottle the entire ocean just to prove they own the tides. Imagine that. You'd exhaust yourself, right? Carrying all that weight, only to realize that the ocean's real beauty is found when you finally let go and just sink into the quiet stillness. Well, this is a story about that exact moment of surrender and the strange, surprising peace you can find in it. And here he is, the man trying to bottle that ocean, the last thinker. I mean, listen to that. His goal isn't just ambitious, it is absolutely cosmic. He truly believes that he, and he alone, can give meaning to everything, to the entire universe, after all else has just faded away. So, what in the world is his plan for this final hour?
You see, his plan was chillingly precise. He was going to collect all the world's knowledge, every single thought, every discovery, every big why, and then seal it all away in these perfect crystal vials. And then he would wait. Just wait. Wait for every last star to burn out, for every other world to perish, until his collection was the only thing left, the only thing that could give any meaning at all to the silent repeating cycle of the cosmos, a cycle known as the eternal recurrence.
So this idea, eternal recurrence, is basically the cosmic stage for our thinker's whole ambition. He isn't just trying to understand this infinite loop of existence, he's trying to master it. He wants to be the sole witness, the final judge of a universe that's just going to repeat itself forever. But just as he's standing there admiring his grand project, an unexpected visitor arrives, and this guy is about to challenge the very foundation of everything he's built.
A figure called the Soothsayer approaches. And not with some big, dramatic fight, but with this weary finality. He just looks at the thinker's incredible collection and dismisses it. All of it. He says the vials aren't treasures. He calls them the ledgers of the great evening, basically the final bookkeeping of mankind's ultimate foolishness. And right there, we have a massive clash of worldviews.
Let's break this down, because this is the heart of it. On one hand, the thinker sees his quest as the ultimate will to power, that drive to grow, to expand, to scream a holy yes to existence itself. But the soothsayer, he sees it as a will to distraction, a desperate, frantic attempt to stay busy because you're absolutely terrified of what you might see if you just stop and look into the dark. So the thinker's undaunted witness is, in the soothsayer's eyes, nothing more than a god of shavings, a pathetic little deity built from leftover junk.
And boom, this quote right here just nails the soothsayer's core argument. The thinker believes he's climbing, right? Moving forward, getting somewhere. But the soothsayer says it's all an illusion. You're just walking in a circle. You're on a treadmill to nowhere. Every single step you take to overcome yourself just brings you right back to where you started. And this isn't just his opinion on one guy. He says it's a diagnosis of a universal condition.
He calls this universal condition the long tiredness. It's this deep, cosmic weariness, a feeling that all the striving, all the ambition, it's finally just run its course. And he paints this incredible, mythic picture to explain it. An infernal council gathered together to discuss the final death of human ambition.
In this vision, Lucifer Morningstar isn't some bringer of rebellion, he's the herald of exhaustion. He's the one who brings a light that doesn't inspire you anymore. It's the morning star of the final dusk. Yeah, it lights up the world, but all it shows you is the decay and the futility of even trying to climb any higher.
Then Beelzebub chimes in, making this vision of decay even worse. Ambition hasn't just stopped, it's actively rotting. Humanity's greatest dreams, they're now just food for flies. There's no more building, no more progress, just a slow, stagnant rot into a final sleep from which no one is ever waking up.
And finally, Mephistopheles lays out the final, cynical plan. He sees this last gasp of human ambition, this idea of becoming an overman, something more than human, and he calls it a glittering lie. So his goal is simple, almost darkly funny. Prove how absurd all this striving is by twisting the ultimate will to power into a simple, exhausted will to nap. So, if striving is just a dead end, what's the alternative? Well, the soothsayer offers a pretty radical alternative. He tells a story of a man he finds desperately climbing a staircase that leads nowhere, chasing something he calls self-overcoming. The climber's convinced he has to go up to become something greater, but the soothsayer tells him he's got it all wrong. The real goal isn't to climb over anything, it's to sink under.
And this is the path of self-undergoing. Now, this isn't about failing or giving up. It's a conscious choice, a deliberate act of surrender.
It's about finally stopping the fight against that inevitable pull of gravity, of the void. It's about saying no to the exhausting climb and a powerful, peaceful yes to the abyss. A yes to finally being at rest. This idea, it completely flips the entire heroic journey on its head.
Think about it. This path literally inverts the traditional journey of the spirit. Instead of growing stronger, the spirit just descends into exhaustion. The creative, playful innocence of the child sours into this bitter cynicism. The roaring, defiant freedom of the lion, once a symbol of breaking chains, it just becomes a suffocating, empty dread. And finally, the camel, which is supposed to kneel to take on a great burden with strength, now it kneels simply because its legs have finally given out.
So the crucial takeaway here is the soothsayer's complete reframing of what purpose even is. To him, striving isn't noble, it's a chore. Becoming something new isn't growth, it's a delirium. He argues that the most enlightened thing you can do is to undo, to cease. The only true state of completion is to be finished. Okay, so with that devastating thought in mind, let's go back to the last thinker and see how this truth finally lands for him.
The last thinker looks at his vast collection, at his life's work, and for the very first time, he doesn't see knowledge, he doesn't see power. He sees the gray truth of the soothsayer's words reflected right back at him in the glass, and in that one moment, he feels the sudden, profound, leaden boredom for the very heights he was once so desperate to conquer. And his reaction, it isn't anger, it isn't violence, there's no dramatic smashing of his work. He simply lays his tools down. The release is quiet, it's final. The vials seem to break on their own, and all of that collected knowledge, everything he worked for, just evaporates into the damp evening air, returning to nothing.
So why? Why would he just surrender his entire life's work like that? Because the soothsayer had finally shown him the gray truth at the very heart of his collection. He now understood that to know everything is just to realize you've been calculating the sum of zero the whole time. All that effort, all that meticulous collecting, it all amounted to a profound, intricate, and ultimately perfect understanding of nothingness.
And with the thinker's surrender, that frantic, endless cycle of striving finally stops. And in that stopping, a strange, paradoxical peace is found. The void, which was once this terrifying emptiness he had to conquer, is now somehow full. It's complete. The thinker has finally found what the soothsayer calls the happiness of the grave. The holy peace of a broken clock that no longer has to lie about the time.
And that really brings us to the final question this whole parable leaves us wrestling with. In a world that is constantly telling us to climb, to achieve more, to overcome every single obstacle, this story suggests a completely different path. It asks us to wonder if maybe, just maybe, the greatest strength isn't found in the endless struggle against gravity, but in having the courage to finally and truly let go.